feel what we feel now, you'd be a leader filled with might. Cause we're awakened. You won't catch us sleeping through the fight in life. We're all eyes open, showing our inside and light so bright. We are awakened.
And now a word from the Awakened Radio sponsors. In 1993, the Einstein College of Medicine patented a blood electrification device to clean the blood of bacteria and virus droplets. The device was just too cheap and effective and was not implemented into standard medical practice in hospitals. See where that patent has led to. Check out forcemagneticpulsar.com. That is pulsar, spelled with an ER, not AR. forcemagneticpulsar.com. Have you taken part in the prosperity game at the Awakened Radio Network? Visit our homepage, awakenedradio.net. Find out how you can win prizes just by exercising your money muscle. A $1 donation gets you in the drawing every month for prizes that will blow your mind. Check out the prosperity game here on the Awakened Radio Network, awakenedradio.net.
Welcome to Simply Conversations. This show airs every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central. Each week, we have a new conversation with a guest who will share their story with us about how they've changed or healed their own life. Listen to our discussion and be inspired. This show is brought to you by simplyconversations.com. Feel free to take part in our chat room, ask questions, and talk with our guests. Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to Simply Conversations. I'm Rob Ragozzine, your host and explorer. It's December 15th, 9 p.m. Eastern, 2013. Tonight, my guest will be Kimberly Wilson Ward, and she's an awarded medium, card reader, shamanic practitioner, dream interpreter, healer, and wellness coach. And currently she's nominated for the Times Square Press 2013 Best Medium Healers and Psychics from Around the World contest, so you can currently vote for her. She says, happiness is not something you aspire to or attain by accumulation. Happiness is within you, but for most it's shadowed by wants and expectations. Acceptance, gratitude, and love equal happiness. Laugh off the inconveniences. Smile at the simple beauty of a tree. Accept that nothing is perfect, yet all is perfection, and love unconditionally. Thank you, Kimberly, for coming on tonight and taking time out of your busy life. I know we're all busy at this time of year. So how are you tonight?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And thanks for having me on the show. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while. I know we had a little mishap there when I was supposed to be on before, so I'm glad it finally happened.
I'm glad to have you on. We have a lot to talk about. I'd like to find a way to talk a little bit about your shamanic work, because a lot of people are interested in that. So let's begin there and talk about some of the tools and techniques that we might work with if someone comes to you and wants to do something like a soul retrieval, or doesn't even know that they need to do that, but that's where they end up.
Okay, well, let me start with just a little bit of background and how I got into that. Can I do that?
Absolutely.
I had actually gone for some work myself. I had gone to have a craniosacral therapy session done. It's just, we all need to have work done occasionally. And during this session, and I frequently do this if I'm having someone else work on me, I'll meditate. And I was meditating during the session, and I saw myself laying on a very large rock up on a plateau, like over a canyon, if you will. And there were 7 healers around me. One of them was a Native American medicine man, and all of them were silent except him. He was chanting, and he was rattling, and he was doing all of this work around me, and then he had me stand up, and he anointed me with this blue paint. About a month later, and I had been studying shamanism, if you will, and doing meditations that fell into the shamanic realm. I had gone to a workshop about a month after I had seen this vision during the craniosacral. And the woman who was teaching the workshop was a shamanic practitioner, and she pulled her rattle out of her bag, and it was the exact same color blue that I had been anointed with. And so I knew immediately, because I pay attention. Part of the shamanic, living shamanically, is paying attention to signs, paying attention to every little thing around you, because it has meaning. And to me, that rattle had meaning. So I started working with her, and I worked with her for a year. And in learning the work, I'm also having work done. I started finding that there were many pieces of my fragmented self that were lingering back in the trauma where they occurred. And it helped me to understand why sometimes I just felt like there was this void, like there was something missing, but I could never put my finger on what it was, you know. And I know a lot of people go through that. They spend their lives thinking, well, there's something missing, and so they'll go buy things. And it makes them feel good for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a week, and then they're void again. And as I was doing this work and these pieces of soul fragments were coming back, I started feeling better. I started feeling more complete. I had less desire to go out and get things. You know, my little quote that you read at the beginning of the show about accumulating things, that isn't what makes people happy. As these soul fragments came back, I was drawn more and more to the work. When I work with clients, they might come for a simple reading, or they may come for some Reiki, and they start expressing to me feelings of maybe something's missing, then we'll talk about doing a possible soul retrieval. And with soul retrieval, basically the only tools I use are some sage and a rattle and a drum, and that's it.
And what do people typically experience when they undergo their first soul retrieval?
It's really interesting. If anyone's ever gone to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, in that world, they call it disassociation. In the shamanic world, we call it soul loss. In a therapy session, people can have some pretty significant breakdowns, if you will, realizations, whatever the psychological world might call it. A soul retrieval is much more gentle. So if I'm doing a soul retrieval for someone, if we're in person, I'll have them lay on the floor and I'll lay down beside them so that our arms are touching, and they will simply relax and listen to the drum beat. They can just lay there and relax. They can journey, they can meditate, whatever they like. I ask them just to lay there and relax. I journey on their behalf. When I come back from the journey, I will blow any soul parts that wanted to come back with me. I will blow them into their heart chakra, and then I blow them into the crown chakra, and then I rattle around them to seal that energy back into their self. And then I tell them everything that I saw. A lot of times, people will actually have very vivid memories of the things that I'm telling them that I saw. Occasionally, they'll only have vague memories, because what happens is if they're traumatic enough, they kind of, when that piece of themselves leaves, that memory leaves with them. But generally, when we're discussing it, it all comes back to them. And it's a very gentle way, especially as an adult. If these were child soul parts that were missing, as an adult, they can experience the situation from an adult perspective when we have all of our capabilities of processing those emotions that we may not have been able to process when we were 5 years old, possibly because no one around us was validating how we were actually feeling. And that's really the key. And that's when the soul loss occurs, is if you're 5 years old and you're feeling something and the adult in your life isn't validating that feeling to help you work through it, if it's extremely painful, you just kind of go away. So you don't have to experience it and you don't have to feel it.
I know for myself it was the communication. You just don't know how to communicate as a child when you're growing up in some cases. So for some people, that could be very traumatic. So to begin to be able to heal that, is there a way that someone can begin to address this before they come to you, Kimberly? So if they want to come to you to begin to look at some of these issues and to begin to heal them, what can they start to do in their own lives so they can be more prepared?
One of the things, when I'm doing wellness coaching with a client and I'm going to be working with them for any type of extended period of time, the first thing that I would have my client do for me is a timeline. And this is something that's not emotional. And I'm very clear when I'm giving them the direction on this, what I want from them. And this isn't for me. It's not something they're going to give to me. It's only for themselves. I ask them to just write down events that could possibly have been traumatic. And when I say events, I mean things like, when I was 3 years old, I moved. I don't want them writing down any emotions, just a list of events, a chronological timeline of events in their life. Because what happens when they start doing that from a non-emotional standpoint, it's not traumatic for them. They're not having to relive it. They're just stating these events. It prompts memory. It activates a mental faculty for them to mentally activate memories without emotionally activating them. And I like them to do that before they come for a soul retrieval. It helps in a lot of ways. Aside from that, there's really nothing else they need to do to prepare. And if someone simply wants a soul retrieval and wants to come, there's nothing they need to do other than be open and receptive to whatever comes through.
Kimberly, what's the typical response from someone after they've worked with you for a while?
Most of the time, well, there's two things. If they've come simply for a soul retrieval, a lot of times some emotion does occur, but again, it's a very gentle emotion. And we'll talk through it and talk through why they might have felt the way they felt and identifying what emotion they felt back when they were younger. When you're 5 years old, it's very difficult to differentiate between anger, disappointment, and these different emotions. We just feel bad. So we try to identify what the emotion was and then process through it. Any type of negative emotion is similar to grief. So there's a process to work through that emotion. So as the adult, we just discuss it and we work through it. Sometimes there's tears, sometimes there's laughter, a lot of times there's hugs. You know, I ask them to welcome back themselves, welcome back their small child. Sometimes I encourage clients to go buy a little token gift for their child, if you will. You know, just something that, you know, they're giving to themselves. It's a gesture of love, and it's all about self-love. Because what happens when we're traumatized as children and our soul starts to fragment, we lose that sense of self-love.
And it's all about finding ourselves.
Exactly.
So as a guide, Kimberly, do you find that once people begin to connect with themselves, then they start to go after their heart desire, what the heart's calling for?
What I have found is that once someone starts this work, they can't stop. You're compelled to search for more. You're compelled to find more of yourself. It opens up a doorway that you literally can't shut. Even for myself, you know, as a small child, I had an alcoholic father who was overly critical. Now, as a child, I felt like I couldn't do anything right. I was never good enough. You know, so I grew up believing I wasn't good enough. And in high school, I couldn't even stand in front of a classroom and give an oral book report. I would burst into tears and run from the room because I wasn't good enough to do it. Because my critical father was always there in my head. It's like a recording. And it took me a lot of years to overcome that. And I've had a lot of teachers throughout the year. And that's what happens to us when we fall victim. But once you open that door and you start doing the work, you can't stop. And you'll find yourself doing some of it on your own. And that I do encourage my clients to do the work on their own. I never want anyone to be dependent on me. If they become dependent on me, I start establishing the boundaries and the separations and giving them homework and sending them on their way, because they really need to do the work for themselves.
Kimberly, that's great. It's empowering them. And what are some tools that you might steer them towards?
I do. I'm a strong proponent for meditation, and unfortunately, I would say probably 80%, 70 to 80% of the clients that come to me initially say, I can't meditate. You know, meditation can be kind of scary, because if you go out on the internet and you start Googling meditation, you're going to see things like Kundalini rising, sitting in silence and stilling the mind. And the first time somebody tries to do that and it doesn't work, they stop meditating. So I try to teach them how to do what I call active meditation. And that's where I don't want them to still their mind. I want them to focus their mind on something specific, which is really meditation. And it might be counting. It might be counting the breaths. You know, so these types of tools, and I'll tell them do it for 1 minute. And when you can do it for 1 minute, you feel good about what you did, try it for 2. And not try to still the mind, because as soon as you do that, you try to still the mind and you can't still the mind, you feel like you failed and you quit.
Or they can try something like walking meditation,
exactly,
or something of that nature instead. They don't have to just sit.
No. Even washing the dishes, just wash the dishes and experience what the water feels like when there's soap in it, what the water feels like when the dishes are coming clean, and just focus on that. Because that in itself can be a meditation, because you're focused solely on one thing and you're experiencing it. You're focused on, exactly.
To notice the water, to notice how warm it feels on your skin.
Exactly. You know, does your body feel different when you put your hands into the water? How does it feel? Acknowledge it. You know, that's being in the moment. As soon as you can be in the moment, you suddenly aren't worried about anything. You can't be upset. If all you're doing is experiencing what that water feels like on your skin, and that's your only purpose in that moment, all of those other things fall away for a brief period of time.
Timelessness.
Yes.
And before you know it, 20 minutes might have passed. And there you are washing the dishes.
Yeah, my 5-minute morning meditations at one point in time, and I like to meditate at 4 a.m. That's the best time. So I found myself one morning because I didn't set a timer. I didn't, I just, and my CD player was on a continuous loop. I like to listen to brain entrainment when I'm meditating. And 2 hours later, I realized the sun had come up and I'm still sitting there. And, and that's truly being in the moment. And that's truly when my mind became still. I wasn't worried about what time it was. I wasn't worried about how long I'd been sitting there. And that's when you know you've gotten it.
And it won't necessarily happen right away. But
no.
It's about connecting inward and truly paying attention to you, to step out of all that busyness and static.
Right.
Now, I was reading some of your quotes, Kimberly, and you said, acceptance does not mean to just go with the flow. Only dead fish go with the flow. Sometimes acceptance means you need to find the determination to make your way upstream. So,
exactly. One of the workshops I teach is called Making Joy a Habit. And your level of joy and your level of happiness is in direct relationship to your level of acceptance. Now I'm going to use hypothetical examples. Suddenly today you found yourself out of work. Okay? Most people, the first thing that they would do would say, oh my God, how am I going to pay my bills? Oh my God, if I can't pay my bills, I'm going to lose my car. If I don't have a car, I'm not going to be able to find work. And they start talking themselves into how bad the situation is. Okay? Acceptance means saying to yourself, okay, I'm out of work. And that's it. You just accept the fact that you're out of work. The determination to get yourself upstream through acceptance would say, I'm out of work. Must be something better's on the way. And this is also how you make joy a habit. By finding the bright side of it. And, that's so cliche. It's so cliche, but it's so true. Because we manifest with every thought, every word, every action, what's coming towards us. So when you resist something, resisting being out of work, you're fighting it. You're fighting it. You create that resistance in all aspects of your life. You actually, in essence, are asking for the things that you're thinking about. The Bible states, ask and you shall receive. And if there is nothing else in the Bible that's true, that is. It is so true. Everything you think, everything you say, how you feel, manifests what you're going to get. So if you accept, I'm out of work right now, and not resist it, just allow it, you actually can create doors opening and bringing things into your life, because everything is energy. You can't destroy energy. You can't create energy. All you can do is transfer it. So when one door opens, one door closes, another door opens. And if you believe that and accept it, then you automatically have less worry in your life. And you can fight your way, or not fight your way, but find the determination to get upstream. The salmon run upstream every year. They just do it. They go. They don't worry about how hard the water is running. They just keep jumping and jumping and jumping until they get up there. They don't give up. They just accept they have to get up the stream and they go.
And instead of fighting, they're just doing.
They're just doing.
But they're also following their heart. They're compelled to go upstream.
Exactly.
So to connect with your heart and ask, okay, this has ended. What's next? What do I want to do with my life? What do I want to create? And do many people ask you that? Kimberly, how do they create something they feel like impossible for them to create?
Yeah, they do. That's probably the number one thing I hear is, but how do I do that? Because I'm so miserable. How do I do that? I'm so sad. How do I do that? He left me. How, they reach a point because no one's ever taught them how to manifest. Growing up, most children hear the word no more than they hear any other word. So we have all these programs in our head that say, no, you can't. But I'm here to tell you, yes, you can. And it's all about breaking those recordings. And it takes practice, which is why I teach making joy a habit, because you don't create habits by doing something once. You have to keep doing it and doing it and doing it until it becomes second nature.
Well, we only have about 4 minutes to break, and I'd like to talk more about this when we come back. But can you share links for people to find you?
Sure. My personal website is newbeginningsholisticwellness.com. I'm also listed with bellaspree.com, which is a free online metaphysical magazine. I write for them, and that's BELLESPRIT.com. And I'm also listed with ESP Psychics, and that's ESPSYCHICS.com.
And do you have a Twitter account people can follow you on?
Kimberly Psychic is my Twitter ID. I'm not great with Twitter. I still haven't figured out Twitter. I'm not sure I like it. I'm not sure I understand the purpose. But I'm trying. I'm not resisting.
Facebook?
Facebook, you can find me at facebook.com/Holistic Tiger. And my New Beginnings Holistic Wellness is also on Facebook. I do have a fan page I try to be active on as much as I can.
And are there any big events coming up where you'll be at?
Oh, let's see. I do have some events coming up next year, but I don't have that calendar in front of me. You did mention I was nominated. I was nominated, and that was a really big honor for me. I was shocked and surprised. I was nominated for both psychic and medium categories. To vote for me or any of the other psychics that you know and love, you just simply send an email to newyorkgate@aol.com. Attention Marla C. Tell her who you're voting for and why you're voting for them. And voting ends December 19th.
So they only have a few more days.
4 more days.
4 more days.
Yeah.
And do you have any ebooks published?
I do not have any ebooks published as yet. I've been writing for Bella Spree. I have a book in the works. I'm just going to say that much at the moment on that. I'm still... It's not close enough to being finished to start talking about it.
But it's coming.
It is coming, and it's going to be big.
Okay. So we only have about a minute till break. Is there something that people should know about you before we go to break that they should just know?
No, I can't think of anything at the moment.
Okay. Well, this is Kimberly Ward on Simply Conversations. Come back, and the chat room's open, and I'll give you the numbers to contact us after we return from break, but come back and listen. Thanks for listening tonight.
Cause we're awakened, you won't catch us sleeping
And
through the fight, and like we're all as open.
we have 30 seconds, so if you do have an opportunity to go to Amazon, you can check out my book, Your Life Counts, there.
Cause we're awakened, you won't catch us sleeping through the fight.
I'm Donna Devane, and station owner here at the Awakened Radio Network. And I'd like to ask you for your help. Would you consider helping Awakened Radio Network move into 2014 in a brand new, bigger, more exciting way? Live streaming TV in addition to our live streaming radio. If you would love to give something back to the station that gives you the tools for self-empowerment so that you can do your own healing and your own work, well, then head on over to www.gofundme.com Awakened Radio. That's gofundme.com/Awakened Radio. Your donations can help us move into 2014 bigger, better than we've done for the past 2 years. Please help us out. Consider making a donation. And after donating, please use your social networks, Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook, all of them to share gofundme.com/Awakened Radio. We've done this much together. Just think what we can do if each one of us will invite 10 people to come and support the Awakened Radio Network. Thank you so much. I'm Donna Devane, the Barefoot Guru, and as always, I love you, and I remind you, love yourself well. Peace.
Welcome to Simply Conversations. This show airs every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central. Each week, we have a new conversation with a guest who will share their story with us about how they've changed or healed their own life. Listen to our discussion and be inspired. This show is brought to you by simplyconversations.com. Feel free to take part in our chat room, ask questions, and talk with our guests. Okay, we're back with Kimberly Wilson Ward, and if you'd like to join us and ask a question for Kimberly, you can add Awakened Radio to your Skype or call 334-649-7204, or of course join us in the chat room by coming to awakenedradio.net and click on the live chat tab. And before we broke, we were talking about making joy a habit, and what are some techniques that people typically do to do that, Kimberly? Do they watch funny shows? Do they just remind themselves to have fun in their life? What is it that most people typically do? Or isn't there anything?
Well, there's a lot of things. One of the things that I try to encourage clients to do when I'm teaching the workshop, I talk a lot about perspective, okay? Little things that can really throw us for a loop. Going to the grocery store can actually be a traumatic experience for people because they get all these groceries that they need and they put them up on the belt and they run down and the dollars just keep going up higher and higher and higher and higher. And all of a sudden they're sitting there thinking, I wasn't planning on spending that much money. Okay? So when I talk about perspective, what I want people to do is instead of looking at the checkbook getting smaller, look at all the abundance that you're putting into your kitchen cupboards when you get home. So what I try to do is to shift the perspective for people. And I ask them to make a conscious effort with everything they're doing to shift their perspective, to truly be aware of what's going on around them. So if they're caught in heavy traffic, instead of getting upset that they might be late, shift the perspective to say, hey, maybe there's a reason I'm getting slowed down right now. turn on some music and enjoy the moment. Shift the perspective. And I ask them, please, please, please make a conscious effort. Whatever the situation is, say, oh, wait, I'm supposed to change their perspective and find that new perspective, because that's how you start making it a habit, by doing it over and over and over again. And eventually you will automatically find that bright and shiny place, that cliche, you know, find the bright side, because there is one. There's always one. We tend to see the dark. We tend to see the negative. Why is that? I used to be that person. You know, I have a day job that I go to, and they nickname me Little Miss Sunshine. How can you be so happy all the time?
But there's always that person, Kimberly, that says, if this is the reality, the news is so depressing, and they can't turn it off.
I don't watch the news. I don't have cable TV. I have a TV, and I have a DVD player, and I rent movies. I have a couple of TV shows, local stations, that I like watching X Factor. I just think that's a great show. You know? It's making people's dreams come true. And that's what it's all about. So I don't watch the news. I know very little about politics. I don't need to know about them. I have friends that tell me, oh, how can you not? Why do I need to know? I'm not a politician. I have no desire to be one. Am I living in the dark? Am I living a lie? I'm happy.
But you're not hiding from it. You're just not giving it attention.
Right. I make a conscious decision not to give it attention. If there is something I need to know about the world, I go search for the information, and I choose which source I'm going to read it from.
And that's empowering.
It is. It is.
And it's a way to live your life and be joyful. To connect, to see other people that are like on X Factor, like on the other singing shows, who are experiencing the life that they want to live. They're living expansively.
Right. Exactly. You know, I think a lot of it, I might sidetrack you just a little. Is that okay?
That's okay.
All right. Because I think that, you know, some of the things that I see within my clients, things that I found out about myself as I was growing up, I'm still growing up, was that a lot of people have a very low self-worth. A very low self-worth. So I want anyone and everyone who's out there listening to do this little exercise, okay? I want to take away all of your roles. I want to take away being a mom, being a sister, being a brother, being a teacher, being a writer, whatever your roles are, take them all away. And I'm going to put you on a deserted island, and it's just the island and you with your identity. And if I did that, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate yourself? And be honest. What would you rate yourself, Rob?
What am I rating myself on? How am I living on the island?
If you had no roles, all of your roles are gone. You're not a radio host. You're not a son. You're not a father. You're not none of these things.
None of these
just
things.
You. Just you on a deserted island. On a scale of 1 to 10, what are you?
I don't know. I guess I'm enjoying the island. I don't have a number. I don't know about numbers.
Okay. When I do this exercise in groups of people, people say things like 3, 5, because they feel without their roles, they're not worth anything. They feel that their roles define them.
See, I see the curiosity, the opportunity to explore. And
right.
There. Donna says 10 in the chat room.
Yeah, I just peeked around and looked. I can't look at the chat when I'm talking. I'll get sidetracked.
No, but
anyway,
that's a great exercise because, well, think about it. What's happening there? You're immediately connecting to your self-worth by your role.
Exactly, and it's the wrong way to look at it, because I learned about this when I was learning about working in sales. And, you know, as a salesperson, you have the opportunity to fail every single day. And
every day is a failure. And it's a win.
Yeah. But, I mean, you know, if you know, as a salesperson, and your job is to, let's say, close 10 deals, and at the end of the day, you closed 5. How good do you feel? How good does your boss feel? You know, and the whole purpose of that exercise is to show people that if you fail in your role, it does not mean you're a failure as a person. Okay? So today you didn't hit your goal in this role. It doesn't take anything away from who you are. It doesn't take anything away from your identity. If you were born a 10, you're still a 10, regardless of your roles and how you performed within those roles throughout your day. But people tend to relate their self-worth to their performance in their roles. So if their marriage fails and they end up divorced, they suddenly feel like a failure. But they're not. The marriage just didn't work out. Acceptance, again.
Or whatever. If you retire, now you're not that. What are you? You lose your job. What are you? How are you defining yourself? To expand and allow for a deeper meaning and definition of yourself.
So it's a way to open people's awareness and create self-worth. Not create it, acknowledge it. Create's the wrong word. It's already there. Acknowledge the self-worth. This helped me tremendously in getting over my fear. You know, number one, I was the girl who couldn't do an oral book report in high school. I purposely put myself into sales because I had to face that fear. And that was the best way for me to face it. I've got to go out and talk to strangers. I have a hard time talking to my friends, you know. And look at me now, I'm on the radio.
Absolutely. That's what I tell everyone. Now you're on the radio. Think about that for a second. People are listening to you. People that you don't even know yet.
Exactly. And there's a gentleman in the chat room who lives in Rome.
Yes.
Listening to your show.
That's awesome. He came for you, though. See that? He came to listen to you. Think about that.
Because I bit strip him on Facebook.
But still, he came to listen to you. So think about that empowerment.
Awesome.
That is awesome.
It is awesome. He's awesome.
And as we're talking about self-healing, I'm looking at your quote about that where you say, the greatest barrier to healing is self and self-limiting baggage that self carries as if it were a part of the identity.
Yes. Yes, part of that baggage. You know, we value ourselves so low, and we carry that around with us like a suitcase. We drag it behind us, and that prevents us from healing, because as soon as we say, okay, I'm going to go see a healer because I'm going to feel better, and we go see the healer, we go see someone for a reading, we go see someone for Reiki, whatever it is, and then we come home and we still say to ourselves, I'm fat, I'm not good enough, I can't do this. She told me to do this, I can't do this. Because we're a 5 in our mind.
But you're still giving your power away.
Exactly.
You're leaving it I don't know where you're burying your power. Time to do a soul retrieval, but it's it's disempowering. How can you empower yourself? And that's what you're talking about here, is empowering yourself and stepping forward, whether it's with joy or whether it's mindfulness. These are all ways to be empowered.
Right. And that's really what it's about, empowering yourself. Sometimes all it takes, it's funny to watch the light bulb go on, you know, and I don't have one magic wand that does that. You know, I've got soul retrieval. I've got this little exercise about self-worth. I've got lots of little things that I do. And part of, I think, one of the things that helps me a lot with being the wellness coach is because of my psychic and intuitive nature. Sometimes I can just tune right in on what's going to work for this person. You know, and sometimes people fall back and I won't hear from them for 7-8 months, and then all of a sudden, bam, they're emailing me or calling me again, and they don't know what happened. Something triggered it. You know, it's interesting. I wrote a column once called Reflections of Self, because we'll meet people and something they say, something they do triggers an emotion in us from something that happened years ago. We don't recognize it for what it is. We suddenly feel like we're being attacked or we're being criticized, and we react. Instead of responding to that person, we react to the reflection. As soon as we react to the reflection, we create something that didn't exist until that moment. And I talk a good talk, but I just had this happen to me last week. Someone I know very, very well said something to me, and I reacted. And I knew I reacted within the first 2 minutes, but it was too late. It had already happened.
But you can apologize. You can say, I know I reacted.
Doesn't take it away.
It doesn't take it away. But it is telling yourself that you recognize the reaction. Next time you could be faster, but you might not be.
What it does is, when you start recognizing it, even though it'll happen again, they're little lessons for us, because that's what it is. We're all in one great big school room here. So you become more aware of it, and you learn something. When you're aware that you react, when you catch yourself and you're aware of the reaction, that's when you learn. That's when you learn from it the most.
Isn't it spending time in self-reflection?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just to be noticing, notice your reactions, but not to label them, just to notice them.
Yes.
We're not saying we're bad or evil. We're saying I want to be aware of how I am in the world. I don't want to be contributing to the world's problems. I want to be a healer.
Right.
And that's what a healer is. Healing yourself first.
Exactly. So in that moment when I reacted, had I responded through love and compassion, through my heart, things would have been different. But because it triggered an emotion in me that was stronger at that moment, it created something different. It created an opportunity is what it did. It created an opportunity for growth, both for myself and for the other person. Again, the bright side, I gotta find it.
But that's the way to have a real and honest relationship with someone. To be willing to explore these things rather than stuff down the wounds and pretend they're not there.
Exactly. That's exactly how it works.
Yes, you hurt this person, but you could make amends and try not to do it in the future. Knowing that it's always possible. That's human.
It is human.
Is there one primary complaint that people have when they come to see you, Kimberly? I know we kind of covered this before, but
Well, for whatever reason, this seems to be the year for broken relationships. Whether it's been even on-air readings, when I've been on radio shows where we're doing readings, or personal clients coming to me when I've done fairs, the number one thing that people have come to me with this year, in the last 12 months, have been relationship issues. Don't know why. It isn't always that way. A few years ago, it was childhood issues, broken childhood. Some of them were extremely traumatic, physical abuse and things. But this year, it's been relationships. And I don't know if there's something in the air, if it's a certain planetary alignment, but that's been it.
Well, numerologically, it's all about compassion and self-care. So taking care of yourself is important. Now, as far as connecting with your intuition, do you guide people in that, or do you just help them to mindfully pay attention to themselves?
I try to guide as much as I can. I teach about dream interpretation because I believe that the majority of dreams are the result of an unresolved emotion or an unresolved decision. So I work with people with their dreams and teach them how to interpret their dreams. I teach them how to be aware. And again, that helps kind of coax them into the present, because you can't be aware of your surroundings if you're worried about the future or worried about the past. So it also teaches to be present. But yes, I do teach about the intuition. I have a couple of classes and workshops I teach as well. I try to get them to open up to it by making them aware that everyone is psychic. Just have to tap into it.
Just have to learn to listen. You might already be receiving information, but you push it down, you dismiss it, say that it's silly. Now, do you teach about recurring symbols and synchronicity?
Yes. And that's something that's very shamanic, for me anyway, because little things, animals, plants, signs on the road. I was driving down the road, this was 2 months ago, and I see this sign. There's a store that puts the letters out with messages, and I look up at it and it says, "Hurry is the master of mistake." I immediately took my foot off the gas and slowed down. And about 300 yards later, a truck pulled out in front of me.
That's powerful.
It is very powerful. So yes, I tell them, pay attention to everything. If something stands out to you, it has purpose. Always.
Yes. Like the recurring numbers and the signs that you just talked about. Last week I just saw a sign that said, "We have faith in your future." I said, "Oh, wow, awesome." And it was lit up. Now after I passed by it again, it's not lit up anymore. It was only lit up for that one day. So I can't really see it, but I saw it. That was a great sign. So if you're seeing the numbers, I tell a lot of people, that's like a phone call. Are you going to answer the call, or are you just going to post on Facebook that you had a phone call? Right. And you teach them how to answer the phone.
Exactly. Pay attention. If you don't know what it means, ask somebody. Look it up. Go hit Google. Something. Look into it. If you don't know what it means and it doesn't have specific personal meaning to you, go look for it, because I assure you, if you get on the internet and Google it, or you call somebody and ask them, they're going to have an answer for you. If you Google it and something comes up and it stands out to you, that's it. The key is, if something stands out to you, pay attention to it. Absolutely.
Well, we have about 5 minutes left, unfortunately. We have a lot more to talk about, but can you share your links again so that people can find you, including how to vote for you?
Sure. Let's see. My website is newbeginningsholisticwellness.com.
But if they put in Kimberly Ward into Google, they can find you?
If they put in, let's see, Kimberly Ward, yes, they will. They'll probably find my Bella Spree links, and it'll all lead back somehow. If you put in Reverend Kimberly Ward, Psychic, you definitely will find me. Because I know there's a couple of other Kimberly Wards out there. One's a senator and one's an artist. And yep.
Okay. And your links? Twitter, Facebook?
Facebook is facebook.com/holistic tiger. Twitter is Kimberly Psychic. I also have a Facebook fan page, but if you get to my regular Facebook page, you'll find the fan page. I do have a blog, but I haven't written in it in a long time. It's makingjoyahabit.blogspot.com. I need to get out there and write some more, but there's some cute, fun stuff to read if you're interested.
But they can find your articles on that Bell Spirit site?
Yes. They can also find them right on my website as well.
Okay.
I have pretty much everything there.
And if they're local to you, they can take classes with you?
Yes. I'm on the board of directors at Kripalu Yoga and Wellness Center in Adams Center, New York, and I do teach a lot there. And that's... I'll post in the chat room before we're all done. I'll post a link to Kripalu, so then you'll see the calendar of events if you're in the upstate New York area. I'm up near Canada. Okay.
I can put that in the forum, and people will be able to find it, so that they can find you. And stay tuned for the upcoming eventual secret book.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Okay. Well, thank you for being with us today, Kimberly.
I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too, and I wish we had more time, but the time's ticking. So thank you for coming on, and I hope that people learned something. I had a great experience with the Little Island exercise. It was great.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Rob.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Good night, everybody.
And that was Kimberly Wilson Ward, and you can find her as she described by putting in Reverend Kimberly Wilson Ward on Google and finding her on Facebook and her websites. And we'll also have those links in the forum when the show goes up and in the show description. So please do find that and try to find her in Kripalu as well. Now, we also have here at Awakened Radio a few things to mention in my limited time here. Thrive Magazine, the deadline is the end of the month, so you can contribute articles, art, and poetry to the magazine. And the new magazine for next year will be coming out sometime in January, so you have until the end of December to contribute to that, and we'd like to hear from you. And if you do contribute, we'll share your bio and a link back to your website, and you can become a part of the Awakened Radio Network community. We'd love to have you. Please stay tuned again next week for another edition of Simply Conversations, and also join me on Thursday for my Your Unfolding Senses show. Thanks for listening. Have a great night.
You won't catch us sleeping through the fight in life. We're all eyes open.